If she always stays on your mind without contact, it means this: psychology tricks. You find yourself thinking about her every day, even though there's no message waiting, no missed call, no sign that she's thinking about you at all, yet she stays lodged in your mind like unfinished business. And that's not romance, that's unresolved attachment. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And right now, your attention is giving power to someone who isn't present in your life. When a woman occupies your mind without contact, it usually means your imagination has filled the silence with meaning, hope, and unfinished conversations that never happened. Your mind is chasing closure, not connection. And here's the hard truth most men need to hear. Obsession grows in absence when clarity is missing. If this realization lands heavy, if something inside you tightens or wakes up, subscribe to this channel, not for entertainment, but for reminders like this, because comfort keeps you stuck. Truth sets you free. And once you see what this really is, you stop romanticizing silence and start reclaiming your focus, your time, and your self-respect. 1. You've given her a place she didn't earn. Here's the hard, clarifying truth most men never hear. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If she lives in your mind without contact, without effort, without consistency, it means you gave her a place she never earned. That is not romance. That is projection. That is you filling silence with meaning it does not contain. Don't confuse absence with depth. Don't mistake quiet for mystery. Be honest with yourself. If she were thinking about you the way you're thinking about her, you would know. You wouldn't be guessing. You wouldn't be analyzing timestamps or replaying old conversations. Women communicate when they care. That's not a psychology trick. That's observable reality. They reach out. They create openings. They make their interest felt. Silence is not a puzzle you need to solve. Silence is an answer, and the answer is no. Not maybe, not later, not she's busy. Just no. That is the part most men resist, so the mind starts working against itself. You begin to write stories to protect hope. You tell yourself she's overwhelmed, she's healing, she's afraid of how strongly she feels. That story feels better than the truth, but it keeps you stuck. Female psychology is not cruel, but it is clear. Interest creates movement. Disinterest creates distance. Anything else is fantasy. And the danger here isn't rejection. The danger is that you start building emotional attachment without mutual exchange. That is how men lose balance. That is how attraction fades before it ever forms. You must understand this if you want to understand how to fall in love in a healthy, grounded way. Love grows through shared investment, not silent fixation. Don't pedestalize someone who hasn't shown up. Don't assign value where no effort exists. Be disciplined with your attention. Attention is currency. Where you spend it determines your emotional strength. This is where real psychology tricks come in, not manipulation, but self-mastery. When you stop chasing clarity, clarity appears. When you stop filling the silence, the truth becomes obvious. And once you see it, you regain control. You stop bleeding energy into someone who hasn't chosen you. You stop romanticizing potential. You start respecting reality. That shift alone changes everything about your presence, your confidence, and how women respond to you. Female psychology responds to grounded men, not men lost in their own thoughts. And if you truly want to understand how to fall in love, understand this first. The right connection never requires you to guess, chase, or suffer in silence. It meets you halfway. Anything else is a lesson, not a destination. 2. You're building a relationship in your mind. Here is the uncomfortable but freeing truth you need to hear, and you need to hear it without sugarcoating. What's not okay is this: you're building a relationship in your mind with someone who isn't even present in your life. That is not romance. That is not destiny. That is fantasy. And fantasy is seductive because it feels safe, but it quietly keeps you stuck. It keeps you waiting. It keeps you investing emotional energy where no real exchange exists. Don't confuse imagination with connection. Be honest. You're not responding to what is happening. You're responding to what you wish was happening. That is the trap. You tell yourself it feels deep, it feels meaningful. But what you're actually in love with is not her. You're in love with the idea of her, the version you created in your head, the version that always understands you, the version that never disappoints you, the version that doesn't exist in real life. That is why it feels intense. Fantasy has no friction, reality does. And real love requires friction. It requires presence. It requires effort from both sides. It requires communication, mutual investment, shared reality. None of that is happening here. That is the fact you must face if you want to become a high-value man. Look closely at what's really going on. You're doing all the work in your own head. You're replaying moments. You're reading between lines that were never written. Meanwhile, she's out there living her life, completely unaware, or worse, aware and unbothered. That contrast matters, because attraction is built in shared space, not silent obsession. A man who wants to attract women does not build castles in the air. He builds clarity. He builds standards. He builds a life that requires real participation, not imaginary commitment. Don't romanticize absence. Be grounded. Silence is not depth. Distance is not desire. That is not masculine energy. Masculine energy is rooted, calm, and present. It does not chase ghosts. It does not wait in emotional limbo. It does not assign importance where no effort exists. You must understand this if you want to grow. The longer you live in fantasy, the longer you delay real connection. Fantasy feels powerful, but it slowly drains you. Reality feels challenging, but it strengthens you. This is where psychology tricks stop being about others and start being about you. Female psychology responds to men who are emotionally self-directed, not men lost in their own projections. When you stop building relationships in your head, something powerful happens. Your energy returns to you. Your focus sharpens. Your standards rise. You stop waiting. You start choosing. That is how a high-value man moves through the world. That is how masculine energy becomes attractive without effort. If you truly want to attract women, you must let go of imaginary bonds and demand real presence. If you truly want love, understand how to fall in love in reality, not in your thoughts. Don't feed stories that keep you passive. Be disciplined with your mind. Be selective with your attention. That is not cold. That is clarity. And clarity is what finally opens the door to something real. And if this hit a nerve, don't scroll past it. Act. Drop a comment right now and write this sentence: I choose reality over fantasy. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and remind yourself every single day: if she's only in your mind and not in your life, it's not love, it's a lesson. 3. You don't value your own attention. You don't value your own attention. And that single truth explains more about your situation than any psychology trick ever could. Because when a woman lives in your head without contact, without effort, without presence, it doesn't mean she's special. It means your mind is unguarded, your inner space is unprotected, and your attention, your most valuable currency, is being handed out without discernment. And old Stoic wisdom warned us about this long before modern dating ever existed, because Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength, yet too many men today give that power away freely, letting thoughts loop, memories replay, and imagined conversations drain their energy while the other person invests nothing at all. And that's not love. That's neglecting your own authority. Because attention is not free. Attention is life force. Attention is time you never get back. And in modern life, where distractions are endless and emotional availability is confused with depth, men are subtly trained to romanticize fixation instead of mastering focus. But Stoicism is about reclaiming that focus, because an iron mind does not chase clarity from silence. It creates clarity through discipline. And when you allow someone to occupy your mental space without contribution, you are teaching yourself a dangerous habit: that your peace is negotiable, that your thoughts are open access, that anyone can move in without paying rent. And Seneca warned us clearly when he said, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." Yet this is exactly what happens when you replay someone who is no longer present, because your mind starts living in a future that never arrives or a past that cannot be changed. And the instruction here is simple but uncompromising. Guard your attention as you would guard your time, your finances, your principles, because an iron mind understands that what you dwell on shapes who you become, and Old Stoic wisdom teaches that peace is not found by controlling others, but by mastering the self. So if someone stays on your mind without contact, without consistency, without action, the lesson is not about her, it's about you reclaiming ownership of your inner world. And in today's dating culture where endless options create endless confusion, the man who wins is the man who chooses where his attention goes, because Stoicism win is not emotional withdrawal. It is emotional precision. It is knowing when to engage and when to release. And as Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, which in modern terms means stop explaining your silence, stop justifying your distance, stop feeding thoughts that don't feed you back. Because victory in life is not loud. It is calm. It is selective. It is rooted in an iron mind that values focus over fantasy, direction over rumination, and self-respect over mental noise. And when you truly understand this, you stop asking why someone stays on your mind and start asking why you allowed it. And that single shift is where mastery begins. 4. It's not about her. It's about you. It's not about her, and you need to stop pretending it is. Because the moment a woman stays on your mind without contact, without effort, without presence, the real story isn't female psychology. It's your inner landscape asking for attention. So let's go deeper and be honest about why this happens, why men obsess over women who pull away, why silence becomes magnetic. Because it's not her mystery that traps you. It's the empty space inside you looking for meaning, direction, and validation. And when a man lacks purpose, lacks a mission that gets him out of bed, lacks self-respect anchored in action, he unconsciously fills that gap with a woman and calls it connection. He turns her into the center, the reward, the reason. And that is where attraction quietly collapses. Because no amount of psychology tricks can replace a life with momentum, and no mastery of female psychology will save a man who has nothing driving him forward. So don't romanticize obsession. Don't call fixation how to fall in love, because love isn't built on absence and longing alone. It's built on strength meeting strength, direction meeting direction. And when a man has no goals bigger than himself, no work that challenges him, no discipline that grounds him, he waits, he watches, he hopes, and that waiting turns into attachment. Attachment turns into overthinking. And overthinking turns into emotional dependency, which women instinctively feel long before words are exchanged. Because women don't want to be your purpose. They don't want to be the solution to your restlessness. They want to join a man who already knows where he's going. A man whose life is full enough that her presence is a choice, not a necessity. That is the quiet truth behind female psychology that most men miss. And here's the uncomfortable instruction you must hear. Stop chasing clarity from someone who hasn't chosen you. Stop assigning meaning where none was given. Be a man with direction. Be a man with standards. Be a man whose days are structured around growth, not waiting for a message. Because the moment you reclaim your mission, the obsession fades, the fog lifts, and suddenly the psychology tricks lose their power, not because you mastered her, but because you mastered yourself. And that is how attraction actually works. That is how to fall in love without losing yourself. And that is why, when a man builds something real, his body, his craft, his legacy, women don't sit in his mind as unanswered questions. They arrive as companions. And once you understand that, everything changes, not just in dating, but in how you see yourself, how you move through the world, and how calm, focused men naturally become the ones others want to follow. Not fix, not save, not complete. If this hit home, don't just nod and move on. Take action. Like the video, subscribe for more grounded wisdom, and engage with the channel. Then comment this below to lock it in and remind yourself who you are becoming. I build my purpose first and let the right woman join my path. 5. Attraction isn't about availability, it's about value. Attraction isn't about availability, it's about value. And that is the first truth you must accept if a woman stays on your mind without contact, without momentum, without movement. Because when you obsess over her, you're not expressing interest. You're broadcasting emptiness. You're telling the universe and you're telling her that nothing else in your life carries enough weight to hold your attention, that your days feel lighter only when she crosses your thoughts, that your sense of meaning has quietly shifted from your path to her presence. And here's the hard part most men don't want to face. Emptiness doesn't attract, it repels, always. A high-value man understands this instinctively. He doesn't chase to feel alive. He builds and attraction follows. She can feel it, even from a distance, even without words. Women are deeply attuned to emotional pressure, and when you place her at the center of your inner world, she senses the weight immediately, the expectation, the fantasy, the silent hope that she will give your days color and direction. And that pressure doesn't feel romantic. It feels heavy. No one wants to be someone's entire world, especially when they never agreed to that role. Don't confuse intensity with connection. Don't mistake fixation for depth. That is not how you attract women. That is how you quietly push them away. Here's what most men misunderstand about female psychology. Attraction isn't built through constant availability. It's built through value, and value is demonstrated through scarcity, through priority, through self-investment. Be clear on this. Scarcity does not mean playing games. It means your time is already spoken for by a life that matters to you. It means your energy is directed, not waiting. It means your masculine energy is grounded in purpose, not anticipation. When a man invests in himself, his health, his craft, his mission, he naturally becomes selective. That selectivity creates gravity. That gravity is what attracts women. Don't make her the reward. Be the man who is already rewarded by his own progress. Be the man whose days are full, whose calendar reflects ambition, whose habits signal self-respect. That is what a high-value man looks like in real life. Not loud, not desperate, focused, calm, moving forward. When you do this, you stop orbiting women and start inviting them into your orbit. And that shift changes everything. You must understand this if you want to attract women without losing yourself. Attraction grows when a woman feels she is joining a journey, not becoming the destination. She is drawn to direction, to consistency, to a man who is building something meaningful and inviting her to walk beside him, not carry him. That is masculine energy at its core. Presence without pressure, strength without demand, interest without attachment. So don't wait. Don't hover. Don't obsess. Build. Invest. Move. Become the man whose absence is felt because his presence is valuable, not because he is constantly available. That is how attraction works. That is how you attract women with clarity and confidence. And that is why a high-value man never needs to chase. His life already speaks for him. 6. A high-value man doesn't have time to obsess. Here's the truth most men learn late, and once you see it, you don't unsee it. When a woman stays on your mind without contact, without presence, without contribution to your life, it doesn't mean connection, it means leakage. It means your attention is flowing outward instead of being anchored inward. A man who constantly thinks about her, replays conversations, imagines outcomes, and waits emotionally becomes transparent energetically, even if he never sends a message. Focus is currency, attention is power, and when you spend it unconsciously, you feel it drain. So does she. This is where old Stoic wisdom steps in with brutal clarity. You do not control external people, but you fully control where your mind resides. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When your thoughts orbit her, your strength leaks, your posture softens, your presence thins. Women don't respond to words first, they respond to orientation. Intuition picks up what logic misses, not because they're mysterious, because humans feel focus before they hear speech. When a man's life shrinks to emotional fixation, attraction doesn't fade out of cruelty, it fades out of imbalance. A man with purpose feels different. He moves differently. He listens without leaning. He stands without chasing. That's why a high-value man doesn't obsess, not as a rule, but as a byproduct of direction. He is occupied. He is invested elsewhere. He is building something that requires his full attention. His goals demand him. His health disciplines him. His future calls him forward. His legacy pulls him out of mental loops. A woman may pass through his thoughts, but she doesn't camp there. She doesn't rent space for free, because he understands something most men were never taught. Mental real estate is sacred. Guard it, allocate it, invest it. This is iron mind thinking. This is Stoicism win in real life, not on paper. Seneca warned, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." Obsession is premature suffering. It's living in imagined outcomes instead of lived momentum. In modern life, where messages are instant, validation is addictive, and distraction is constant, discipline of thought is the new masculine edge. Don't monitor, don't wonder, don't wait. Act in your own life. Build gravity. Let silence work. Let absence speak. When you stop chasing clarity, clarity arrives. When you stop centering her, you recenter yourself. That's not withdrawal. That's alignment. That's old Stoic wisdom applied cleanly. Repeat it until it sticks. Attention is power. Focus is leadership. Direction creates attraction. This is Stoicism win at its core. Build the iron mind. Choose what you think about. Choose what you feed. Choose what you grow. And watch how everything else responds, not because you tried, but because you finally stopped leaking energy into places that were never meant to hold it. If this hit a nerve, don't scroll away, because this is the line most men never cross. They stay stuck in their heads, replaying thoughts, leaking energy, giving away focus for free. A high-value man doesn't do that. He reclaims his mind. He puts his goals first. He owns his mental space and protects it fiercely. That's where real attraction begins. So if you're ready to stop obsessing and start leading your own life, drop this in the comments right now. I take my focus back and I build my future first. Like the video, subscribe for more clear, grounded psychology, and remind yourself daily, what you focus on, you empower. 7. Stop giving away your mind. Stop giving away your mind. That's the real difference. And that's the shift you must make if she stays on your mind even when there is no contact. Because what you are feeling is not mystery or fate, it is unresolved attention, and psychology tricks explain this clearly. The mind hates open loops, especially when female psychology mixes presence with absence, warmth with silence, interest with distance, so your thoughts keep circling, not because she is doing something magical, but because you are allowing someone who is not investing, not communicating, and not fully present to occupy prime mental space, and that is the mistake you must correct. Don't confuse constant thinking with connection. Don't mistake silence for depth. Be honest with yourself. If someone is not showing up consistently, your mind fills in the gaps, and that is how attachment grows without substance. That is how confusion feels like chemistry. That is how longing disguises itself as meaning. Psychology tricks work best when you don't see them working, and one of the oldest patterns in female psychology is that uncertainty creates intensity, not because women are trying to control you, but because the human brain bonds harder when clarity is missing. So if you want to understand how to fall in love in a healthy way, you must first understand how obsession forms in unhealthy ways. Be disciplined with your attention. Your focus is not free entertainment for people who offer you fragments. Your attention is sacred, and when you give it to someone who doesn't reciprocate, you are training your nervous system to crave what it doesn't receive. That is not romance. That is conditioning. Don't chase emotional closure where there is no emotional investment. Don't replay conversations that never happened. Be grounded, be selective. That is strength. If she stays on your mind without contact, it means your mind is trying to resolve imbalance, not build intimacy, and psychology tricks lose their power the moment you stop feeding them with imagination. You must redirect your energy back to yourself, back to purpose, back to people who meet you where you stand. That is how to fall in love with clarity, not chaos. That is how to apply female psychology wisely, not emotionally. When you stop giving away your mind, the spell breaks. When your attention returns to you, perspective returns with it. And here is the quiet truth most men learn late. The right connection doesn't consume your thoughts in silence. It grows through presence, communication, and mutual effort. Be calm, be decisive. Guard your mind like you guard your time. That is the shift. That is the lesson. And once you learn it, psychology tricks no longer run you, you run yourself. 8. The pain feels real, but the pattern is already set. The pain feels real, but the pattern is already set, and you must understand that both of those things can be true at the same time. Now, let's talk about the pain, because I know it hurts, and I won't dismiss it. I know it feels real. The longing feels real. The wondering feels real. The imagining feels real. You replay moments that mattered to you, not because they were complete, but because they were unfinished. You ask yourself, what if she reached out? You think, what if she changed her mind? You whisper, what if this time it's different? Don't ignore those thoughts, but don't worship them either. Be honest. Those questions don't come from clarity. They come from absence. They come from silence. They come from your mind trying to rewrite an ending that already happened. It won't be different, and that statement is not cruelty, it's freedom, because the pattern is already set. That is the part most men struggle to accept. Patterns don't lie, words fluctuate, feelings shift, promises fade, but patterns stay consistent. She has already shown you who she is through her behavior, through her timing, through her effort, or the lack of it. Believe her, not the version you imagine late at night, not the version you hope she might become. Believe the version she actually is, when nothing is being said, when nothing is being done, when you are left alone with your thoughts. That is reality speaking. You must listen. Don't confuse emotional intensity with emotional depth. Don't mistake anticipation for connection. Be grounded. A high-value man does not build his future on potential alone. A high-value man observes, assesses, and then decides. That is masculine energy in its calmest form. That is how you attract women without chasing uncertainty. When you keep holding space for someone who has already stepped away, you are not being patient. You are being unavailable to your own growth. And that matters. The pain you feel is not proof that she was the one. It is proof that your mind bonded to possibility. That happens when attention is given without consistency in return. It happens when effort flows one way. It happens when imagination fills gaps that reality refuses to close. Don't fight the pain. Understand it. Pain is a signal, not a command. You must feel it without letting it decide for you. That is how a high-value man moves forward with dignity. Be disciplined with your focus. Be selective with your emotional investment. Masculine energy is not loud, dramatic, or reactive. It is steady. It is self-directed. It knows when to stop feeding what does not grow. If you want to attract women who respect you, you must first respect your own boundaries. If you want to attract women who choose you freely, you must stop waiting to be chosen by someone who already showed hesitation. That is the shift. The moment you stop arguing with the pattern is the moment peace begins. You don't need closure from her. You need alignment with yourself. Be calm. Be decisive. Let the pattern stand as the truth. And when you do, you'll notice something powerful. Your mind clears. Your energy returns. And the version of you that women are naturally drawn to starts showing up again. That is masculine energy. That is how a high-value man lives, and that is how you move on without losing yourself. If this message hit home, pause for a second, breathe, then take action. Like this video, subscribe for more grounded psychology and quiet strength, and comment below to lock this truth into your mind. I trust patterns over promises. I choose clarity over hope. Say it publicly. Own it. Because the pain feels real, but the pattern is already set. Longing, wondering, imagining different outcomes only keeps you stuck. She has already shown you who she is, not the version you wish for, but the version that exists. When you accept that, your mind finally settles. And when your mind settles, your power returns. 9. You can't lose something you never had. You're holding on because letting go feels like losing, but here is the first instruction you must accept if you want clarity and peace. You cannot lose something you never truly had. And when a woman stays on your mind without contact, without consistency, without real shared ground, what you are grieving is not her. It is an idea, a projection, a story you built to fill a gap you didn't want to face. And men at this stage of life know this pain well because it doesn't come from romance. It comes from unfinished business within yourself, from moments where silence was mistaken for meaning and absence was mistaken for depth. And the longer you hold on, the deeper that void becomes, because you are feeding it with imagination instead of substance, with hope instead of direction, with emotional memory instead of forward motion. And as Marcus Aurelius warned, you suffer more in imagination than in reality, which is exactly what happens when the mind loops on someone who is no longer present, because the mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. And that is where Old Stoic wisdom steps in and draws a hard line, telling you that attachment without reality is not love. It is avoidance. It is the refusal to return to yourself and rebuild what was neglected. Because real strength is not found in replaying what could have been, but in constructing what must be built now. And in modern life, this trap is more dangerous than ever because technology allows absence to feel close, memories to feel alive, and silence to feel like potential. But do not confuse access to memory with access to truth, because if there was something real there, it would not require constant mental effort to keep it alive. It would meet you halfway in action, in consistency, in presence. And Seneca said it plainly, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, repeating this lesson across centuries because men keep falling into the same pattern, mistaking emotional intensity for emotional value. And here is the decisive instruction you need to hear. Stop negotiating with ghosts. Stop romanticizing what never stabilized. Stop investing iron focus into something that never invested back. Because hope without action is not optimism. It is procrastination dressed up as patience. And every day you linger there, you delay real progress, real relationships, real self-respect. And this is where Stoicism win is not a slogan, but a practice, because Stoicism teaches you to direct your energy toward what is within your control. And her absence is not within your control, but your discipline is, your direction is, your standards are, and an iron mind does not beg the past for closure. It creates closure through forward motion, through structure, through purpose, through deliberate action. And you must understand this at a deeper psychological level. The mind clings because it wants meaning, not because the person was exceptional, but because you attached meaning to the possibility. And when possibility dies, the ego panics because it feels exposed. But exposure is not danger. Exposure is an invitation to rebuild on truth instead of illusion. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom reminds you that longing is not proof of value, intensity is not proof of compatibility, and memory is not proof of connection. Because real connection is reciprocal, grounded, and calm, not obsessive, not draining, not confusing. And if she remains on your mind without contact, it means your mind is seeking resolution, not reunion. And resolution does not come from reaching out. It comes from redirecting your focus toward real inputs that produce real outputs. Because men do not heal by waiting. They heal by building, by moving, by committing to something larger than a single emotional narrative. And Epictetus put it simply, don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to, but rather wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy. Which in modern terms means stop resisting reality and start aligning with it. Because reality has already answered you through silence, distance, and inconsistency. And your job is not to reinterpret those signals, but to respect them. And this is where Stoicism win becomes practical, because an iron mind does not chase clarity from people who offer confusion. It generates clarity internally and acts accordingly. And you must hear this clearly. Letting go is not loss. It is liberation. It is the moment you stop bleeding energy into something that never stabilized and start investing it into your health, your mission, your craft, your relationships that show up, your daily structure. Because fulfillment does not arrive through emotional fixation. It arrives through disciplined momentum. And the man who understands this stops asking, "What did it mean?" and starts asking, "What am I building now?" And that shift alone changes everything because the mind cannot obsess and advance at the same time. And every hour spent replaying the past is an hour stolen from your future. And old Stoic wisdom never told men to suppress emotion. It taught them to master it, to put it in service of action rather than fantasy. And this is the final instruction you need to carry forward. If she stays on your mind without contact, it means it is time to return to yourself, to close the mental loop, to replace hope with execution, to replace waiting with movement, to sharpen your iron mind through daily discipline. Because when your life becomes full, the ghosts lose their power. And when your direction is clear, the past becomes quiet. And that is not bitterness, that is freedom. That is Stoicism win in real life, calm, grounded, decisive, and unshakable. 10. Redirect your energy. Redirect your energy because that is the real lesson hiding beneath the noise. And here's what you must understand: if she stays on your mind without contact, you stop, not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You stop checking her social media like it holds answers it never promised to give. You stop replaying old conversations as if clarity lives in the past. You stop wondering what she's doing, who she's with, or what she might be thinking, because that mental habit feels productive, but produces nothing. That is not intuition speaking. That is attachment looking for relief. Be honest with yourself. If she wanted to be present, she would be. If she wanted to reach out, she already would have. And even if she thinks about you occasionally, thinking without action changes nothing, which makes it irrelevant to your life right now. Don't confuse emotional residue with connection. That is a common trap explained clearly in female psychology and often misunderstood by men who haven't learned these psychology tricks yet. The mind clings to unfinished stories, not because they are meaningful, but because they are unresolved. And unresolved does not mean valuable. You must redirect that energy deliberately, not passively, because idle energy turns inward and becomes obsession. Put it back into your body. Train harder, walk longer, sleep deeper. Put it into your work so your days feel earned again. Put it into your goals so your future feels louder than your memories. Put it into the people who actually show up for you without confusion, delay, or mixed signals. That is how you reset your internal balance. That is how attraction actually works, even though no one explains it plainly. Female psychology responds to presence, direction, and self-containment, not emotional hovering. When you remove your attention, you don't lose power, you reclaim it. These psychology tricks aren't about manipulation, they're about alignment. You don't chase clarity, you become clear. You don't wait to be chosen, you choose your own direction. And here's the quiet truth about how to fall in love the right way. Love grows where attention is returned, not where it is wasted. When someone lives rent-free in your mind without showing up in your life, that's your signal. Not to try harder, but to step back. Be disciplined with your focus. Be selective with your emotional investment. Don't romanticize absence. Don't reward silence with imagination. That is how men stay stuck. Redirecting your energy is how men move forward. And when your life becomes fuller, stronger, and more grounded, one of two things happens. Either she fades naturally, or the dynamic shifts without a single word spoken. Either way, you win, because your center no longer depends on anyone else. 11. Living men attract. Here is the expanded rewrite, keeping the original metaphors and meaning intact, while deepening the message, sharpening the contrast, and maintaining a calm but serious authority, written for men who have lived enough life to recognize truth when it's spoken plainly. Living men attract. That line isn't poetry, it's a law, and you must understand it if someone stays on your mind without showing up in your life. You build a life so full that there's no room for ghosts, No space left for imagined conversations, no oxygen for people who disappear and resurface only in your thoughts. Don't underestimate how powerful fullness is. A full life crowds out confusion. A full life leaves no vacancy for fantasies. That is the shift. When your days are packed with purpose, you stop romanticizing silence. You stop assigning meaning to gaps. You stop mistaking absence for mystery. Be clear about this. People who don't communicate are not puzzles to be solved. They are signals to be read, and a high-value man reads signals accurately. He doesn't explain them away. He doesn't reinterpret them to protect hope. He accepts what is happening, not what he wishes were happening. That is masculine energy in its calmest form. You become so focused on your mission that women become a bonus, not the goal, and that distinction changes everything internally. Don't miss this point. When women are the goal, your behavior bends, your decisions hesitate, your self-respect negotiates. But when your mission is the center, your spine stays straight. You show up to your life first. You build, you improve, you sharpen, you move forward whether anyone is watching or not. That is what it means to attract women without chasing them. Attraction isn't created by effort aimed outward. It's created by alignment built inward. A high-value man doesn't orbit desire. Desire orbits him, not because he demands it, but because his life has weight. And weight creates gravity. And when that happens, everything changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but unmistakably. You stop chasing conversations that go nowhere. You stop waiting for replies that never come. You stop hoping that time will magically turn inconsistency into commitment. Hope without evidence is emotional debt. Don't live on credit. Be disciplined. You start living instead. You wake up with intention. You move your body. You engage your work. You pursue goals that demand your attention and reward your effort. And as your life expands, the mental space once occupied by one person who wasn't present begins to collapse on its own, not through force, through irrelevance. Living men attract because they are occupied with living. They don't beg for attention because their life already demands it. They don't obsess because obsession is a symptom of emptiness, not depth. They don't fill their mind with people who don't fill their life because that trade is always a loss. Be honest with yourself here. If someone lives rent-free in your head but contributes nothing to your days, that isn't connection. That's imbalance. And imbalance always costs you more than you think. A man who understands masculine energy protects his attention like a resource because it is one. Where attention goes, life follows. You must choose where yours goes. They choose themselves every single time, not out of ego, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. That is the difference most men miss. Choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting others. It means refusing to abandon yourself. It means you don't stay emotionally invested where clarity is absent. You don't linger where effort isn't matched. You don't perform for someone who isn't participating. Don't confuse patience with self-erasure. Be patient with people who show consistency. Be decisive with people who show confusion. That is how a high-value man moves through the world without drama and without regret. Here's the quiet truth most men learn late. The moment you stop trying to attract women, you actually start to attract women. Because what they respond to isn't pursuit, it's presence, it's direction. It's grounded masculine energy that doesn't rush, doesn't plead, and doesn't chase validation. Living men attract because they are not available for emotional limbo. They don't hover. They don't wait for potential. They engage with reality, and reality rewards that. Don't romanticize someone who doesn't choose you. Don't build castles in silence. Don't mistake distance for depth. That is how men lose years without noticing. Be the man whose calendar is full, whose goals are clear, whose standards are calm and unspoken. Be the man who understands that attraction is a byproduct of a well-lived life, not the purpose of it. That is how you attract women who add to your life instead of consuming it. That is how a high-value man protects his peace without becoming closed. That is masculine energy at its healthiest. Living men attract because they are moving forward. And anything alive, anything aligned, anything real responds to motion. When you live fully, you don't need to wonder why someone stays on your mind. They won't. because your life will be too full, too grounded, and too meaningful to be haunted by someone who chose not to stay. All right, brother, let me leave you with this. Hey, I'm glad you stayed until the end, truly, because if this message hit you, it means you're already waking up. Here's the sincere advice I want you to take with you. Stop arguing with silence and start listening to reality. When someone lives in your head but not in your life, that's not connection. That's a signal. A signal to come back to yourself, to your standards, to your mission. You don't need to force feelings, chase clarity, or wait for attention to feel worthy. You build a life so full, so grounded, so disciplined that silence no longer tempts you. Choose actions over imagination, presence over hope, self-respect over longing. The moment you do that, your mind clears, your energy returns, and your path sharpens. Keep building, keep growing, keep choosing yourself. I'll see you in the next one.